They're really not going to move this. They're really not. The wind chill is going to be -30. You get frostbite in 10 minutes being outside in this. They're really just not, and it's the source from the NFL says no change will be made. The game will go on Saturday night. Boy, Peacock needs this game bad, apparently. What is going on with these two games? This is the most current thing. Like, yes, coach is retired and it's crazy, and I want a lot of money on Michigan, and we'll do both those things. Are they going to move these two games? It seems like they're not going to move the Chiefs game, which I think is insane. You can't go to a game like that. You can't go. You're going to die if you go to the game. I'm laughing, but because it's absurd. And then I don't think you can go to this game on Sunday. You're going to blow away. You try to sit in the stands and watch the Steelers-Bills game. This got really weird really fast with these two things. Because if these move to neutrals, there's a whole lot of stuff that's affected by that. If we feel like that becomes more and more of a possibility.
Oh, well, here's my opinion. As someone who, we'll talk about it later in the show, I took 4.5 with Miami. Just in my opinion, I think they should move the game to Miami. And I should get to keep my bet on Dolphins plus 4.5. Yeah, listen,
you see that Tampa forecast? It's gonna be 85 degrees during the game in the Tampa game.
Here's the problem though with what you're saying.
Yeah,
I agree. I'm team. It could be I wouldn't go outside and sit outside in 40-degree weather for 3 hours for a football game. So -30, no chance. But here's the thing, I guess it's their right. It's America. It's a free country. People can do whatever the hell they want. There are psychopaths that probably wear this as a badge of honor. I can't wait to go and sit outside and get frostbite to watch my team in a wild card game. Probably gonna be psychos with their shirts off, faces painted. These are lunatics. Absolute lunatics. But listen, it's a free country. It's their right to be that. I mean, I feel like the stadiums are gonna be full. We think that Jalen Waddle and Raheem Mostert are going to play for Miami. Both practiced in a limited fashion today. We know that Xavier Howard is out for the Miami Dolphins. Mike McDaniel saying that today. So Miami's number 2 corner will not play in this game against Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, Travis Kelce, and the Kansas City Chiefs. And the Chiefs obviously sat a bunch of key players last week, while the Dolphins lost a division championship game at home on Sunday night to the Buffalo Bills. So Ken, where are we at with the total right now? Where do you stand on this game? Any difference from when we last convened on Monday?
Well, I haven't made any bets yet, but maybe I don't know if my opinion's changed on the game at all. We'll do side total first. So I hate to say stuff's predictable because it's it's easy to say after the fact, right? We did the show Monday. It's look, there's going to be a lot of interest in Kansas City in this game because of the spot and the setup and all the unique things about this game as opposed to when they played earlier in the year in Germany. If they would have played 3 weeks ago, if they were to play a month from now. Weather, injuries, that Mahomes and Kelce rested last week, and the Dolphins had to play Sunday night in an all-in game against Buffalo. These are all things that are really advantageous toward Kansas City. So when the market opens 3.5 for Kansas City, and then McDaniel starts to announce players out, and everyone kind of thinks about the game more, and we get more injury information. And to be fair, it hasn't even been all negative. Mostert and Waddle might play in the game. That's actually a pretty positive development for Miami. I got the sense that this was going to be the game that got bet out and bet out and bet out. Not that the Chiefs have to win or that the Dolphins are a great bet or something like that. Just directionally, I think that makes sense to everybody. The line's moving in that direction, and that the total has finally started moving down a little bit because of the weather. So the Chiefs everywhere now are 4.5-point favorites. That is the most they've been favored by the entire week. It is more than they were favored by when we talked about the game on Monday. The total is as low as it's been the entire week. It is now 43.5 almost everywhere. Any of the 44s on the board are juiced under -15, -20. So there's been interest in the under and interest in the favorite. And a lot of that is due to weather, injuries, kind of all the public obvious things that we know about. So that's what's happened in the market. Do I have a strong opinion on the game? I sort of agree with how people are thinking about this. When I think about the game, it's hard to picture a scenario where Miami's, amazing, gives you a great performance, just if they're going to be really beat up. And it's not just that, because these teams ended up being a 21-14 Chiefs victory. The game was obviously in Europe a long time ago. And it's not that the Dolphins can't be competitive. It's just, I try to picture -25-degree temperatures. And here's Tua running a timing passing attack with hurt receivers against a really, really good defense. and just like, God, it's really hard to picture that going well. Like, it's just really tough to picture them having a lot of success. Now, to be fair, if it gets so cold that like nothing functions for anybody and there's turnovers and weird stuff, that's how underdogs win games a lot more. So this is a really, really interesting betting market. It's turning into a more interesting one as the Chiefs keep getting bet. You have talked yourself into Miami, I think, to like a big degree. I don't want to step in and bet Miami right now. But maybe just kind of walk me through like when you've thought about the game. You've landed on something that you feel a little more confident in now.
Mostert and Waddle are going to play in the game. And like Waddle, sure, I think is a lot more important than Mostert. Like Mostert's a really good player. Jeff Wilson can serve as like 80% of Mostert, and Achane can play also. Like Waddle's the guy that you really need, like opposite Tyreek Hill. For me, it's like, okay, I want those guys to play for Miami. I feel better about Miami being able to move the ball on offense, even in a really cold game. Like, Tyreek's going to get his, especially in a revenge game against his former team going back to Arrowhead. And, with Waddle, obviously, you feel a little better about Miami's offense. I think it's more about the other side for me. And I guess, the case could be made, I guess, with all of Miami's defensive injuries, that it's like the irresistible force against the immovable object. It's like, here's Kansas City's brutal, broken offense, even with the trigger man being maybe the best football player of all time when it's all said and done. Like a bunch of receivers who can't catch and an aging first ballot Hall of Fame tight end who's seen better days, obviously. But maybe it's Miami's defense is just so injury ravaged at this point that it doesn't matter, and Kansas City can still have success as a result. For me, it's just, Kansas City, in order to, and they can, of course, in order to win your bet, you're out there watching and listening, you want to bet Kansas City 4.5, of course, they can cover. You need them to win by 6 or 7, to win this game. And it's just, it represents to me a leap of faith potentially in this offense, just snapping the fingers and turning into something that it really hasn't been largely all season. And again, maybe Miami's just so bad and just dead team walking into this game, and maybe that's what it is. I'm willing to bet on the contrary here. And I'm not even saying the Dolphins are going to win. I think Kansas City's likely to win a pretty close game. I just like this number. I lose on 4. Great. Fins up, baby. Just kind of why I like Miami in the game at this point. But we talked about it on Monday, 3.5. I'm okay, this is all right. 4.5. I think there could be an easier case to be made, for me at least, Ken, on the underdog Miami Dolphins coming up on Saturday night. How much would we have to pay you to sit outdoors at Arrowhead for 3+ hours on Saturday night in minus 25-degree temperature?
These hypotheticals are always tough because I don't know what the exact number is until you see the money in front of you, but it would be very high. I don't like the cold at all. I'm miserable over the course of the winter. I know you mentioned I'm Canadian, but I live in Toronto. The southern point of Ontario is still very much further south than a lot of those northern US states. We don't get a ton of wind here. And even at our temperatures, I can't deal with it. I went to a November football game, late November, in Cincinnati one time, where I was miserable, buying hot chocolates just to warm my hands. They were I don't even know what the number is, Nick, honestly. I honestly think it might be north of $100,000. I'm not exaggerating. I will not wish that upon anyone. And definitely it won't be me that's out there. Unless it's a significant amount.
Chiefs a 4.5-point home favorite on Saturday night, total 43.5.
I have zero confidence in this game. I don't even want to make an entertainment bet on this game because I just don't know how to price the Miami Dolphins right now with the million injuries that they have. The linebacking core this week would have been great in 2014, but it's 2023 and Melvin Ingram, Bruce Irvin, and Justin Houston in your linebacking core, not exactly giving me the most confidence going up against Patrick Mahomes. Then you add in the fact Xavier Howard's probably not going to play. Javon Holland and Deshaun Elliott are on the injury list. I cannot price this game accurately. And then you throw in the weather, which is okay, what's going to happen in this situation? We've seen 8 games this cold in NFL history. And yes, it tends to suppress scoring, but is that enough of a sample size where I'm going to formulate a strong opinion on it? No. If you really, really ask me to play something, I would take the Dolphins. But I think there's a lot of scenarios here where the Chiefs actually blow the Miami Dolphins out.
You said you think it's going to be a good game. I agree. I think the number's a little gone too far. I like the Dolphins plus the 4.5. KC, a 4.5 point home favorite on Saturday night. Again, the weather's going to be ridiculously cold. Total has just dipped down at BetMGM from 44 to 43.5. Waddle and Mostert both practicing today. We're waiting for the full report to find out what the status was of their practice, the designation. But both at practice, probably no Xavier Howard for Miami. Churn, are you betting Saturday night Dolphins and Chiefs? And if so, what do you like?
I like the over. I would say at 43.5 currently. That's good at less than 44. With the way that it might get the attention because it's so cold as we get closer to kickoff, maybe you get a little bit better. There's a lot of data that shows when you get below that 20-degree mark, the cold itself is not a big impact on scoring, and it's not a big impact on offensive production. So I think that might get overblown a bit. The big thing to watch is the wind. Right now it's okay, so I like the over at 43.5. I expect Mostert to play. I expect Waddle to play, and I think Miami will be able to run on this Kansas City defense, which has been vulnerable against the run all year. And on the other side, I think that the tackle situation the Chiefs have dealt with the last few weeks is not going to be tested because of all the Dolphins' injuries. I also think that allows them to get Kelsey and Rice out of the slot involved over the middle of the field. To me, that week of rest last week goes a long way. So I think you'll see Kansas City offensively look a bit better too. So to me, 43.5, we're a point less than a Flacco-Stroud game being played earlier in the day, and you have Mahomes versus McDaniels. I'll go over.